This is FinTech Futures reporting from FinovateSpring in San Francisco, and I'm joined by Josh Rowland from Lead Bank. How are you, Josh?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. How have you been enjoying the conference so far?
I really like it. It's great to be in San Francisco. It's great to be back with people,
yes,
exactly.
Exactly.
at one of these. So happy to be here.
Amazing. So just to quickly get started, then, would you like to give us a quick introduction to yourself and what you're doing at the moment?
Sure. Lead Bank is a community bank based in Kansas City, Missouri. We're about $780 million in assets. I'm the CEO, vice chairman of the bank, and we do our geographically focused community bank work in the Kansas City metropolitan area. But over the last 4 to 5 years, we've become very involved with FinTech partnerships. So now we serve national consumers across the country through FinTech partnerships, and we're very proud of that.
Okay, great. So you're here speaking on a panel then about how community banks and credit unions can compete in the digital world. So what would you say are the key challenges then facing community banks when it comes to digital transformation?
Well, I think the primary challenge is around mindset, honestly. And mindset goes to even such things as like what you think the appropriate level of capital is for a community bank, and then how you think about whether you're going to invest that capital in growth opportunities, or you think that the capital ratio is itself just untouchable. And community banks that are struggling with low growth in their domestic market and their kind of typical geographic market need to get over that mindset. Because the honest truth is that with the capital levels, with the size of community banks, we have actually an advantage in terms of how nimble we can be, how responsive we can be. And in fact, the dialogue with our regulators is so good generally that we can do a lot if we can kind of get over the mindset that we want to compete, but we really can't invest capital in the future. And I think that's what I see right now.
Okay. And so how has Lead Bank then been looking to approach its own digital transformation journey then?
Well, I think what we've said is it's critical. We are a small bank in a very competitive banking market in our geography. And years ago, we said, well, what are the opportunities for a next generation of banking? And the first thing we said, we have to get away from the idea that community means geography. And so by doing that, we started to look for partnerships that served the same kind of traditional demographic, the same kind of client base that we were serving in our geography. We needed to be able to say, what are the opportunities to serve those businesses or those people who would ordinarily be our customers via technology? So we've partnered with FinTech companies on the front end who are doing the marketing and servicing of consumer-focused products, whether it's whether it's credit builder products, secured cards, or in some cases, consumer loans to try to enable that. The second part of that, though, is to build out the infrastructure. And so we've taken the learning that we've gotten from the individual partner relationships, taken that and said, okay, what do we need to do in terms of our core system? How do we need to improve that so that we can then scale more rapidly in broad FinTech relationships?
Excellent. So with how quickly then things tend to change in terms of the digital transformation kind of area, how has that been difficult for you in terms of like keeping up with that change? Has it been, have you tried to tackle that? Have you gone for doing a lot, or have you done with more partnerships? How have you
Well, honestly, I might just challenge you on the idea that it's difficult.
Okay.
Or that it's changing so much. The fact is that banks, community banks in this country, have the ability to do almost any service. And the flip side of that is that we only do those services. So if you think about that and you think, okay, well, digital transformation means accessing more markets, more client markets, whether it's business or consumer, which is what we do, through digital, then the question is, I am going to incrementally build out a digitally transformed bank by looking at the verticals where I have opportunity. So whether you say that, okay, well now crypto is the flavor of the month and everybody's got to be doing crypto, the fact is I'm less motivated by that. I'm looking at what are the services that we are particularly competent to provide as a community bank. We know what those are because we've been doing that for 100 years or so. So then we find partners and systems to enable us to scale those essentially across the country. And that's just about finding the opportunity and then realizing that you're building a total universal platform through technology to serve banking clients. And those clients their needs have not really changed.
And that, I mean, you've mentioned there, I mean, that customer relationship side of things is one of the key selling points for community banks. How have you been looking to focus in on that, and what is it that community banks can offer that the bigger players can't in that sense?
Well, I said it before, I think it's essentially nimbleness and flexibility.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I might say it's a kind of a scrappiness that community banks, the mindset that they need to get into, which is that instead of sitting there and bemoaning the fact that the big banks and the fintech companies are coming in and, taking our market share, the reality is, what are you going to do about it? So to me, the small size of a community bank, the access to decision makers means that decisions can get made really fast and deployed quickly with the right kinds of partners. If you find a fintech partner that actually understands the compliance and the kind of ethical responsibility of banking, if they get that, then you can really outperform much bigger entities because you have that close proximity to decisioning and to implementation. And that's been really the recipe for our success in building these partnerships.
Excellent. And just to finish things off then, what new digital use cases are you most excited by at the moment, and are there any new developments that you can tell us about at Lead Bank?
Well, honestly, I think the thing that I'm most excited about is compliance as a service. Banks are great at compliance because we have to be. We don't have a choice. So instead of viewing that as a cost center, let's view that as our market differentiator. The fintech companies don't have the compliance mindset that we as community banks do, okay? So let's take that, put a premium on that, build out those services, and then sell them as value add, not as an inconvenience. Because the fact is the fintech companies recognize that that is all they need. They need that. They don't need our user interface. They probably don't like it. They don't need our marketing. They probably don't like it. What they need is a safe, sound, reliable platform to bank from. So what we need to do is double down on our investments in quality people, expertise, and technology in compliance so that we can charge a premium for the sophistication and the robustness of our compliance platforms. That's where we're going to put our money. That's what I think is interesting.
Great, thanks for that, Josh, and thanks for having to take some time.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Excellent, thank you.